2017, and welcome to tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting. Let the record show that all board members are present except for Mr. Bramwell, as well as Town Manager Michael Units. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first off, I would like to introduce Tabitha Harkin. Ms. Harkin, if you'd like to come up. She is our new Planning, Economic, and Development individual.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, and welcome.
I'm Tabitha Harkin, the new Planning and Economic Development Director. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I previously worked with DCAM, the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance for the state of Massachusetts. And I am a local person. I live in Easton, so I'm happy to be here. Thank
Great.
you.
Your background?
My background, I have a master's in landscape architecture. I've worked in public and private in both planning, landscape architecture, and construction. So I also worked for the Cape Cod Commission for several years, which is a regional planning agency prior to my work at the state. So.
Okay, that's great. Michael, any comments at all? No?
No, just we're fortunate to have someone with Tabitha's qualifications, to come in and help us along with our economic development and also assisting the planning board in their efforts.
Great. Mr. Kimball.
I just wanted to stress it's very important to us on the economic side, the development, especially the commercial development in town, and anything we can do. But you said something that caught my attention, because I'm also chairman of the Town Common Committee, and we're in the process of revitalizing that committee, that town common. Mm-hmm. I heard landscape, I heard that word. So we may ask for you for help, some
I would love
guidance
to.
on how to do that.
Sure.
We kind of know what we want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but we've got a long ways to go, and we're trying to come up with funds to restore the historic fence, and there's a gazebo on the property, and we're trying to put a well in. There's other things going on too, but we need someone to help us, perhaps even lay out some kind of a plan, and so we can follow it. But we have volunteers that are willing to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't got a plan. We haven't got a clue about how we want to do it.
I'd be happy to, and I've followed in that role several times in the past, and it's always nice to exercise my design muscle. So.
Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
See what happens when you come up. It's like when somebody misses a meeting here.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have Town Clerk Lucia Longhurst for discussing the annual town election, Tuesday, April 25th.
Good evening.
How are you?
As you just said, the town election is April 25th. I would prefer, if it's okay, you don't mind, to hold it, all precincts at the high school?
So all precincts at the high school, sir?
Yes. The presidential election, we had a couple of issues with ballot machines. The ink accumulated and all the ballots were bumping out. I spoke to the company, they're in for repair now to fix them, and I would feel more comfortable being in one place, so if there's an issue somewhere else, that I don't have to be going back and forth.
Right.
We are understaffed due to illness also, and it would be, I don't really have somebody to go and supervise to another polling place if we were to have two polling places.
I mean, my personal opinion is just based upon, having it be a local election. I don't think that I would have any issues with that at all.
Okay. There were only 413 last year that voted in the local election.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be my own personal opinion.
I would agree. This isn't a presidential election. This is a local election, and in the past, they've been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
You're talking, 8, 10, 14% maybe, if that.
Right.
So, and it's a lot more. It's a lot easier to control it because you can control the traffic flow. You've got control of the one police officer directing traffic. We can get it in and out of there. There's plenty of parking.
Right.
So I think for an election, a local election, I think it kind of makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Although Ms. Steele is running, so that may beef up the.
She may be running for bills.
She went for the hills. Nomination papers also, they are available. They are,
I'll be sure to get mine.
and I'm still waiting, the campaign finance reports. Not everybody has turned them in. The deadline is January 17th.
I haven't,
No.
I think we did ours. We
Okay.
did ours.
Well, it's
Do you do it?
it's my understanding if you've had, just for those, for us out there that have to do this, if you had no activity whatsoever, you just come into the town clerk's office.
Come in, I'll give
sign
you
a
the form,
document,
sign and put
you're done.
that you, yeah, no
I mean, it's-
funds.
You don't have to
It's
go
easy.
back.
No.
I used to fill out all those forms, all
Right,
19 pages
right.
of them, and turn them in. and
Right, not
Put
anymore.
zeros on everything, but,
Yep.
yeah, it's a lot easier now.
Yes, it
than
is,
used to be.
it is. Okay, thank
Just the
you.
units.
Anything else?
Don't want to let you leave.
Hold on.
All the
What do you know
information.
about landscaping?
Yeah, we want to get you to volunteer. All the information is on the website as far as what positions.
Everything is
papers-
out there. Everything is out there. Whose terms are coming up, the dates for nomination papers, last day to register to vote, everything is out there.
Just
On the
as,
town
just as a
clerk's
note,
website.
yeah, just as a note, last day to obtain nomination papers is Friday, March 3rd, 2017.
Yes, that is correct.
Board of Selectmen, Board of Assessors, Moderator, School Committee, Water Sewer Commission, and Planning Board.
That is correct.
Okay.
The Board of Assessors, there's two on the
Just-
Board of, one for 1 year and
One for 3.
one for 3.
Got it, okay. Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Good evening.
Okay. Okay. Next on the agenda is Dakota Partners, Roberto Arista, Principal.
To set the date, I'll ask her later.
Okay. Okay.
You already later and set the date.
Oh, I'm not sure, yeah.
Remember,
Not sure if we did that.
very soon.
It's all right.
Good evening.
Evening. I'm just going to sit.
Yeah.
I brought an easel, but since you have one, I'm going to use yours, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Just turn this a little bit so everyone can see.
Just so the
Okay.
camera can see it as well.
But then,
A little bit this way, a little bit, Mike. That's good, that's fine.
so good evening. My name is Roberto Arista. I'm with Dakota Partners. I'm a principal there, and we are the sponsor of a project here in town called Turtle Crossing. And our offices are just a little bit away in Waltham, Massachusetts. So the reason I'm here is because I would like to request a support letter from the town for this project to be included with an application to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Economic Development for a tax credit application for this project. So I think I'll step back a little bit because I'm not so sure that you're all familiar with this project to begin with, and I'll begin there, and then I'll explain the reasons why the support letter. So this is a project that was approved under Chapter 40B some time ago, and we came into the project a little bit late in the game. We went to the planning and the zoning board, and we modified it. We got it to look like this. The original project extended much further back into the land, which goes all the way back to here, but we're not touching that section over there. And it's 176 units in total. And the way we've reconfigured it is with these buildings. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 buildings. So our intention was, and so under 40B, 25% of the units, minimum of 25% of the units are affordable, are deemed to be affordable. Our original intention was to do conventional financing, go out to the marketplace, find a bank, find an investor, put it together, and make it happen that way. But in the last year or so, because of our permitting process, the modifications and then the wetlands and all the other stuff that we were doing. What seemed to have gotten ahead of us was another project, the one on East Street, which is very successful, but unfortunately it's sort of cast a little bit of a shadow on this project in terms of the banks and the investors. They view this as risky, more risky, because it's not exactly visible. And even though it's only about a mile away from the other project and not too far away from the highway, but at the end of the day, wherever we turned, we found that it became uneconomic for us to do a project in a conventional way. So we switched gears, and we said, well, there is another way of doing it. And this is a business that we know well because we are in that marketplace with the housing tax credit. So the housing tax credit, under the housing tax credits, what we would do is we would sort of break it up in chunks. And the reason you'd break it up in chunks is because the housing tax credit, there's a limit to how much you can get in housing tax credit, so the project is sort of, it has to have it's confined. So what we did is we broke it, and what I'll do is I'll hand out, if I may.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we broke it, we're going to break it down into three components. The first two components, and they're in no particular order, but there's two components that we would finance with housing tax credits, and then a third component that we'd actually do just plain market. And the first two components, the two components that were with housing tax credits, would be 72 units each, and that would be these three buildings for one component, these three buildings for another component, and then this building down here is just market. And as you can see, the breakdown in terms of breakdown of the way the units would be is we would have in each of the 72 unit components, we would have 19 units that are market and then 53 that would be affordable. And then those would be for the first two pieces. The third piece, which is the market down here, is 32 units, and that would be all market. And the reason we can do it that way is because at 32 units as a single building, that way, now we can self-finance. We don't have to go out and find a lot of money from banks and investors to do that. So in total, just wanted to remind you, the minimum requirement for affordability is 25%. So in total, when the project is all built out, we would actually have 60% that are affordable and then 40% that are market. That's basically 100 units that are affordable and then 70 units that are market, 106 that are affordable. So that's the way we're looking at it in terms of a breakdown. So the housing tax credit program is something that, as I said, we're familiar with because we've done plenty of projects that way around Massachusetts and other states as well. We operate in New Hampshire and Connecticut at the moment. And we're very familiar with the process. We're very familiar with the people. And we know that we can get this project financed through tax credits because we have that credibility with the state. However, the state always wants to see in the applications a support letter from the town because they want to make sure that the town is behind us. And that's an essential component of the application. So in terms of, I just wanted to speak a little more about the affordability because I think that's an important point. And I know that this was approved under 40B, so it requires at least 25% affordable. But the affordability component is really something that when you look at the incomes and the rents, you're talking about people who are sort of at the beginning of their career. So they might be policemen who are just starting off, or school teachers that are just firemen, EMTs, those sorts of people, and of course a lot of service workers as well. So I wanted to give you a slide that sort of gives the income limits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, the one-bedrooms are less expensive than the two-bedrooms. And so the income limit at the moment, because these income limits change depending on what happens in the area. Every year they're updated. And so therefore they could go up or they could go down. Rarely do they go down. They usually go up because of inflation. So for a one-bedroom unit, a person can make no more than $37,000 or around $38,000, and the rent would be $943. This is something that gives people who are just starting off in life a chance to get ahead, because typically in Massachusetts, especially New England, housing is very expensive. And so a lot of people that are just getting off in life have to pay so much of their salaries or of their income towards housing that they can't really save so much, and therefore they can't, it's harder for them to get ahead, especially young people who are coming out of college, have school loans and all that. So as I've heard many times before, some people say, well, our kids went to college and I'd like to get them out of the house, and so they can now, possibly afford to live in some place like this. So that's really all I had to say. And again, this is about a support letter. And I wanted to give you an example of a support letter that we received some time ago for a project that we did in Haverhill. It's a very simple letter. It just simply says that the town is in support of the project. And this is a project we did in Haverhill a little bit of time ago.
So the housing tax credit program, what is the process, the application process? What is that?
So we're
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely.
And if you do not have a support letter, is it still viable?
So if we don't get a support letter, we would still submit the application, but then we would have to explain why we didn't get the support letter. And if the explanation is that the town doesn't support the project, then we probably wouldn't get the funding. I think it's as simple as that. So the process is that we would submit in February, sometime in February. There's not an exact date. This is a competitive pool, so all the applications go in, and then they score them, and then they let you know whether your project, will get the funding or not. We have been successful, as I've said, in getting funding almost in every round. And every application round is every 8 to 9 months, depending on how the state functions. It's stated that they would have an application round every 8 months, but it doesn't always turn out to be that way. And then they take some time, typically 4 to 5 months. And then, so if we submit in February, we'd probably hear back in June, July. And once we hear back, if we've gotten the funding, then we would start the closing process and begin the phase.
And do they look at things that I guess I would probably look at, concerned with the market, the current market?
Yeah.
Traffic patterns, the possible ability of you not being able to get funded in different areas. Do they look at that as well as a deciding factor?
I think they look more at the need for affordable housing in certain areas, right? So it's more geographic. Of course, other factors matter. In
Sure.
other words, how accessible is the property? Is there public transportation? Things like that.
Okay. Mr. Kimball?
No, I was here in 2006 when we approved the LIP, the original one. Of course, a lot has changed since then.
A lot of change, right?
And I'm going to be very upfront and focused with you because I've opposed every other 40B ever proposed in this town. This is the only one I actually supported back then. And what you're showing us today is a totally different picture of what we were talking about back in 2006, 7, 8. It's a totally different project. And I'm not sure how that falls under anything, but having watched 274 East Main Street and how that's developed, I have a lot of different concerns about this project in particular. And I will tell you that we have others that are being approved or have been approved in town, other 40B comprehensive permits. If we built every one today, including yours, we'd be over 15%. That's how many we have approved.
Oh.
And no fault of yours. One of my issues I have is under affordable housing, there's this umbrella that says, oh, we're here to give people affordable housing, and I appreciate that. But that's not what it's all about. It's about putting the tradesmen to work, putting people in work, getting people back into the marketplace. And I guess the cake on the cream on the top of the cake is the fact that, yes, it does create affordable housing. To your credit, the affordability of these units is very good. I'll give you that, okay? Nowhere near what we just did on 274 East Main Street. However, I have a lot of different concerns about the project. I think it's a new project. I don't think it even looks remotely like the one we talked about in the beginning. In the past 10 years, it's been 10 years, I believe, at least, a lot of things have changed down there, including 274 East Main Street. We have a pumping station across the street in K Estates. They almost can't handle what it has now, so that means you're going to have to make improvements on that in order to make this project happen. You can't put a sewage plant on that property because it won't handle it.
Correct.
The way it's tapered down in the back and all that, I kind of get that. But I guess my concern is everything that we did, all the research we did in 2006, so much has changed. It's almost like you have to start over again. Sewerage and water has become a major factor in that area. It's cost a lot of money to make those improvements. When I supported it originally, and I did support it, I believe I was chair at the time, I did support it, I felt there was a definite need for affordable housing. But since then, like I said, we've got, Turtle Crossing, we've got Island Brook down here at the bottom of the hill, which is in the process right now. They're going through the process. We've got Bay Road Heights, Strawberry Fields. We've got all these different 40Bs that over the past 10 years, in this case, even prior to you guys even owning it, we keep giving 2-year extensions, 2-year extensions, 2-year extensions. If the state was actually aggressive and wanted to make something like this happen, the aggression should be, look, I've given you 2 extensions, damn it, build it. If you can't build it, then we're going to pull it. That's an issue that I have with the state. It's got nothing to do with the developers. But what the real red flag to me is the staging of the project and my concern about the financial ability to finish it. I think that's one of my major red flags I'm looking at today. And I appreciate the 60%, 40% factor. To me, that's excuse me, I have a cold, so I'm going to give it my best shot, but it's beyond the comprehensive permitting process. To me, this almost looks more like a Section 8 type of housing project, more so than a 40B. And they are different. They're the same, but they're different. And Section 8 brings a different element to it, a little different than what you're talking about as the young professional starting out. And I really think that this isn't good for our town right now, based on that fact. And hopefully you haven't got a lot of money sunk into this thing, and hopefully it's not a big deal to you. But I'm not saying that other things can't be done there. I just don't think this is the right project for it. And for that reason, I won't sign a letter of support because of it. And I'm not talking for the others, I'm just talking for myself. I appreciate what you're trying to do down there, but it's not, I live here and it's not in my best interest to support something like this, so.
May I just
Of
address
course,
a
yeah.
couple of
Sure.
things? So regarding the infrastructure, you may not know, it doesn't sound like you know it, but we are working with the Water and Sewer Department to do some infrastructure improvements, right? So we are doing that. There's a water line and a sewer line that we're improving, and I think there's a pump station as well that we're improving. So there's a lot of money that we're going to put into that. And regarding the affordability, I wasn't aware that you had a lot of 40B projects in the pipeline. What I was hopeful for is that this project sort of puts you over the cap, and therefore you don't have to deal with 40B going forward for some time to come. That's what I kind of, the last time I was looking at the numbers, that's what I thought was the case.
Unfortunately, the others are grandfathered. So if for some strange reason, I don't believe it's ever going to happen, but if for some strange reason, other than Island Brook, that's under review right now. That could happen before this, once it's approved. But I don't believe that it'll all be built. I don't see that happening. But I'm concerned about about the pumping station. It's in a neighborhood over there. It was built and designed just for that neighborhood, and we've tied into it now, I think, two or three different projects have gone into it. And at some point, that infrastructure all the way through there has to improve, because you can only pump so much crap in one direction.
Right.
And that's the only way we can do it. And the water is another issue for us in town. We have a lot of brown water here, and we have manganese, and we have other issues with water, which is a focal point conversation every day with people about the quality of our water products. The more we draw on it, the worse it gets. The need for affordable housing in Norton is still there, but again, I just don't know. And I at the time in 2006, it made a lot of sense to me to do this. But since then, like I said, we've had these other projects, and if they all built, the 15% were actually built, it would put a real serious tax burden on the rest of us here in town because of the other cost is associated with developments like this. 274 East Main Street, by the time we get through figuring out how many children we have in there for the school system and how much we're going to raise in taxes, it's going to be a wash.
Do you have that experience at this point? Do you know?
No, because it's not full. There's still, actually, that whole project is still, some of it's still under construction, I think.
No, they have all their occupancy.
It's all done now? But I don't believe they haven't filled it up yet.
No, they finished.
And I know why. I mean, I think they're having a tougher time than they thought to fill it, honestly. But it's because of their rents. This rent is reasonable. I mean, what they're asking is ridiculous, in my opinion. I know that one bedroom is, I know it's very expensive. It's well over, probably almost twice to what you're asking here in this case. But 10 years has changed that whole area a lot. The town has changed a lot. And I'm very concerned about, the kind of impact it's going to make on it.
So I think, a couple of things. Obviously the affordable, the rent factors here are very attractive, and I like that. Obviously if we were to go ahead with this, it would get us above that 10% threshold. I am concerned about the funding, though. I'm concerned about the three different components and the timeliness and the possible funding of each one of those. Is that separate? Is that a separate funding each time, or is it one overall approval?
Yeah, so the first two components on that sheet, which are tax credit applications, they would be separate. Now, we've done, I just wanted to address in terms of execution. I think you mentioned your concern about the execution. We have never not executed on a project. Every project that we've started, or at least attempted to go, we've funded through this program. And we've done, as I said, 6 in Massachusetts so far. And if it's a project that has 2 components, we have never not gotten funding for the second component. So we have a project in Hyannis, Massachusetts that is that way. There's 30 units per section. There's a project in Haverhill, the letter that I gave you, there's 2 components to that is 72 units each, and we've gotten funding for both of those. And then another project in Tingsboro, again, two components to that, a total of 96 units, and we've gotten funding for those. So from my perspective, again, I'm trying to convince you.
No, I get it.
I'm letting you know that we've never failed at getting the funding.
Right. I would be concerned again, though, with this Norton market, I guess, with 274, they seem to be having maybe a hard time, and it could be the rent factor. That could be part of it, too. But
our rents will be lower. Even the market rents will be lower.
Which is is good. But if that market isn't there, then that financing may not be there. So I'm a little concerned with that. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. I have some concerns before I say yes on this project also is, we didn't inherit it, but we will be inheriting it when it's done, is Avalon just built 288 units behind Target, a mile and a half away. You know, the infrastructure of the vehicles are going to take a huge impact between that one there and 274 East Main Street. And with this project going on, with this another 177 units, I mean, you're talking a lot of vehicles. The other point that I have is I would definitely not support this unless I've seen a total commitment from our Water and Sewer Commission that this project would be able to, they would be able to handle the flow, and what the outcome would be that I know down on decay sections down there, that their wet well is too small right now for even to increase the size of adding pumps to it. So I don't know if that would be required of taking land somewhere to make this a larger wet well that we'd have to look at. So, I mean, until I get a further commitment from our own department saying that this project can be handled by that, I don't want to feel like we're signing something that we can't do.
Right.
So just to address that, we're going into the water and sewer. We've met with them several times already, but we're going again at the end of this month to basically sign an agreement for this project, for the infrastructure we have to build. And so I'm assuming, of course, there is capacity, because there is capacity. It's only about the upgrade of the infrastructure that we're doing as part of this project. So if we get that agreement from the Water and Sewer Commission, I'm assuming we're good for this project
Yeah.
in terms of that infrastructure.
That's important. You know, that would be important for this board, obviously,
Sure.
to see and have, because, you know, for us to make a decision before it may even be viable from the water and sewer side of it.
Sure.
Could be disastrous, really, from our side.
Sure. No, I understand.
Ms. Steele?
I actually agree with that. I would feel more comfortable if I saw what that commitment was going to be from both the Water Sewer Department and on your side. I don't really understand a lot about development. So from a development standpoint, if this were to pass as a tax credit development, how does that differ from a 40B as far as the execution of it? Would it fall under 40B rules and regulations, or would it fall under regular development?
No, it follows under, the regulations are 40B.
Okay.
The tax credit is just simply the funding mechanism.
So it's still 40B
It's
development.
40B, yeah. It's controlled by 40B, yeah.
So you guys just have really bad timing, just because of everything that's going on in the town. So I do feel for you. I'm not saying that I'm 100% against this. I tend to be against 40Bs in general for the reasons that Bob mentioned. However, if you guys were to come back and show us some benefits that the town would get from this, is the infrastructure in our water and sewer in that part of town going to be a lot better because of you guys coming in? From my point of view, looking at this right now, I see that it's going to be 40B development, which means we're already behind the 8 ball. And I just don't see a lot of benefit to the town. And again, I'm going to have a hard time voting for something where I don't see the benefit coming in to the taxpayers in the town.
Mr. Units?
Just, if it was a 40B development, 25% of the units would be affordable, which would mean you'd get to count the entire 176 units towards our count.
Okay.
Now, if they go to what they want to do, you still only get to count 176 units. So there's no extra benefit to us by going the way they want to go, other than the question what Bob had raised. It's a different kind of development than a 40B affordable housing development when you're increasing it by that amount of, you know.
Affordability, yeah.
When does your current approval run out?
We're going in for an extension this month.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask if the board does decide to approve this, that be the last extension we offer on this property. I mean, if they're serious about building it, and you know my view, so I'm trying to be objective here. If they are in fact going to build this project, I would suggest that part of our condition would be that they have to complete the project, or at least start the project within 2 years. And, you know, as part of, if you are going to send a letter of support, that's something I would ask you to put in that letter as part of it. I do have a question about the Haverhill project. Where is it?
The Haverhill is, it's Newland Street, so it's not downtown.
No.
It's sort of, it's near 495,
Yep.
has very close access. It's sort of like this project, it's very close to 495.
Off 110? Off Merrimack Street?
Is
195?
it Merrimack Street?
West Lowell,
West Lowell,
River Street exit.
River Street exit.
Oh, the River
I-
Street side, okay.
Yeah.
But that's down on, by the bridge, by the Merrimack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the water's low.
my wife grew up there, so I know.
Okay, so you,
So that's down by, there used to be a landfill on the other side of 195.
yeah, I didn't know that.
You'd know it if you saw it. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's a nice area for something like that. It's right off River Street, which is a nice area. But have you started building it yet, or?
Oh, yeah, we built out the first phase and we're just starting the second phase, yeah. So the first 72 units are in place, rented up very quickly.
Okay.
And it's very similar in mix. It's sort of like it has a market component and an affordable component.
I'll take a peek at it.
Mr. Eunice first.
If you want, if you're debating whether to approve this or not, would you like me to have Copeland and Page develop an LIP agreement that would put some of the stipulations in there?
So my opinion first is that I don't think I'm going to be supporting it tonight, mainly due to the water and sewer, and I think, you know, the funding questions that I would have. But I would be concerned maybe, when do you apply for the extension? Is that something that we would get involved in, or they get
This
involved
month.
first? This month? Do you know?
Yeah, I believe the date is January 31st.
Okay.
And you need the letter by that date?
No, the letter is, won't be needed until we submit the application, and that's going to be sometime in February. When in February?
So,
Around mid-February. We don't know the exact
okay,
date yet.
all right. So I guess what I would suggest is to have you continue to discuss with the water and sewer.
Mhm.
We can certainly have conversations with the water and sewer at some point in January. And then, you know, I would also suggest to Copeland and Page maybe writing something for us to take a look at least.
Yeah, LIP means Local Incentive Program, and I think back 2006, this was a good idea for us. We really didn't have, we had nothing here in town, so it was a good idea for us. But if you do decide to go for it, I would recommend it. For any concerns you're having there, it could be water, it could be sewer, it could be financial ability, it could
Timing.
timeliness,
I guess
I mean,
I'll
all
say.
that stuff should be included in your LIP letter. I don't know, did we ever send an LIP letter, or did we just say, yeah, we're going to support
It
it?
was a local initiative.
did send it?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have that?
I don't know if we have.
We'd love to see it, we can't find it, so we'd love to see it.
You probably have it in your zoning board files.
I remember, I wasn't on the board, but I did walk the property because my wife was on the Conservation
That's
Commission at
right.
the time, so I
It was
walked the
hot back
property
then.
with her.
Yeah. Well, I think people have to understand where this is, too. It's off Newland Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's off Newland by the K Estates. That back end of that property is actually butting up against our aquifer, the Canoe River.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we were in support of it originally, because we wanted to make sure you put surge, town surge in there to keep that danger from
Uh-huh.
having an impact on the river itself. But it's right off Newland Street, and if you know where the K Estates is, the K Estates where every street starts with a K. That's the area. We just bought some land down the street for a new cemetery. So we're putting in a cemetery spot down there. So it's in that area. Earl Wilcott has his emu farm next door.
We're aware
Which
of
was a
that, yeah.
concern back then, but you know what? If you live there, you gotta know it's there. You know,
Right.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way it is. But the original plan that I remember was very compact. It wasn't as far down as this one's going.
Oh, I think it was much further down.
No, that was probably the second or third one.
Oh,
They didn't-
possibly. The one
they had-
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
finally approved
Yeah,
actually
that one's
extended
way
all
out
the
there
way
in the
back
back.
here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, the whole idea was to keep it close to the street and away
Right.
from the river.
right.
And you're right. I mean, I think I saw a plan along the way that kind of bowed out around that back
Right.
corner of it too.
Yeah.
That was all land that had been stripped and milled and whatever.
Right,
And
right.
they took a lot
Yeah.
of material out of that area. But This is a more confined area. It's closer to the street, like, closer to what we originally proposed. If you found the original plan, it's not as deep toward the property line. It kept it back from that, and those lower units were not there. It was pretty much confined to that front. Yeah, pretty much confined to that front section.
Well, we think, from a design perspective, we think it's, we've created this green area in the middle, right here. And then there's a community building where people can go exercise and, do that. And there's a very nice view down here, and the buildings are set that way. So
As I recall, there was some discussion about parking under the buildings. Is that part of this project?
No, this is all surface parking. There's some parking that's going to be covered parking along the sides.
Okay.
Yeah, but
The
it's,
project
there's
before you
no
was
underground
talking
parking.
about Parking underneath the buildings.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work because of drainage.
That was Brady Sullivan that put that up.
Oh, is that right?
So it's-
Oh, okay.
Ms. Steele?
Wasn't aware of that.
I just have a question on the timing. If everything were to work in your favor, how long would it take for a project like this to be completed?
Completed. So, given that we're talking about 2 funding rounds, if there are 2 consecutive funding rounds, we would get the first closing would happen sometime this fall. So we would start the first section, these first 3 buildings in the fall, and then we'd reapply for the second one, and we'd start that one sometime in the spring, or maybe summer, in that timeframe. So we would hope to continue the construction for those 2 components of the project, and this is really independent. We could do that at pretty much any time.
And the inventory for the affordable homes, the number of affordable homes goes into our inventory once the shovel's in the ground or once the project's completed?
I think it's when they stick the shovel in the ground.
When it counts towards our inventory?
Yes.
When they
Project is
receive their occupancy permit.
So it's completion,
So it's completion.
yeah.
So it would be, so we would have
Not
3
until
different,
they get the occupancy permits.
we'd
They
have
don't
3
count 'em.
different phases then.
Right.
Okay.
So in 3 phases, if phase 1 goes, you get 72 units. That still doesn't help you meet your 10%. So another project could get approved. And then you do the next 72, you still don't meet your 10%. So another project could get approved in the meantime, so.
It could be at 20%.
So again, there's a couple of good things here, but there's some questions,
Sure.
specifically the water, sewer. Traffic obviously is a concern. That may be a whole other discussion, but that is a big item though, in that specific area.
Not only that, Mr. Chairman, I remember the original drawing from back then. I don't know where you're at with this one. Is there been a full set of drawings for this project? that
Yeah,
was built
there's a full
out?
set of building, yeah.
Has the area, local departments have reviewed any of these yet, or? They-
I'm sure we've had conversations with the various departments, but we haven't been in for a building permit review yet.
What's the height on those buildings?
Oh, it's 3 stories. I think it's, I don't remember exactly what it is. It certainly meets we're not asking, we haven't asked for any variances, so it certainly meets the height restriction. But this is what a typical building would look like.
Okay.
What's that?
So, all right, so I guess the next thing would be continue to work with the water and sewer
Mhm.
and local departments.
Mhm.
We'll talk to our attorneys to see what we can come up with the LIP.
Sure.
We'll discuss some information too with the water
Sure.
and sewer.
And obviously,
units.
if the zoning board doesn't grant an extension, then
Right.
no letter needed.
That's correct,
Right,
yeah.
right, that's true too, so,
And that'll be on the
Okay.
30th.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, next, we have downtown located at 292 West Main Street, is applying for a Keno license. I don't know, do you have that? Is there something written on that?
Water?
Yeah, I think I need it. I probably need it. Do you want to, Mr. Salva, do you want to just read some of this? I don't know if you have to read the whole thing, though.
Yeah. This was addressed to the Norton Board of Selectmen dated December 22nd, 2016. Accordance with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 10, Section 27A, as amended on your 5/20/96, you are hereby notified the application for Keno license has been received by the Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, MSLC, from the downtown 292 West Main Street, Norton, Mass. If the city or town objects to this insurance of Keno license, it must complain the rights of the hearing before the MSLC within 21 days of receipt of this notice.
That's good. So I would entertain a motion to approve this Keno license.
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor,
Aye.
please signify by saying aye.
Mr. Chairman, I would take a roll call because this got to do with
Well,
liquor,
you're not-
please.
You're not approving the license, you're just voting.
To allow
whether
them
you're
to
gonna-
have it, right?
You really have no vote unless you're going to
Oh,
oppose it.
okay.
And you know, in past practice has been this board and other boards before that pretty much have allowed these to go through. It's not, you know, it's not something that's that detrimental. It actually helps the business a
It's
lot.
tough to stop the
They
state.
didn't have it.
What's that?
I was surprised they didn't have, I thought
Yeah,
they had it
yeah.
already, I was surprised.
I did have a second, yep.
Yeah.
And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye, that is unanimous. Town manager report, Mr. Units.
I just wanted to thank everyone that's been sending me the emails about postal issues, and I've been forwarding them to Senator Kennedy's office. And Senator Kennedy's office also said they're having troubles in Rainham. They've been getting a lot of complaints. So Senator Kennedy did reach out to the regional director of United States Postal Service, and will get back to me when they hear from the regional director. Just an example of postal service gone wrong. The deputy chief mailed something out certified on October 31st. So it gets mailed in Norton October 31st. It goes down to Providence for sorting like everything else on October 31st. November 1st, it leaves Providence and goes to Shrewsbury. And then it gets there on November 2nd. Then it says November 3rd, in transit. November 12th, still in transit. November 4th, why it went to Shrewsbury, I don't know, because it was supposed to be going to North Attleboro, by the way. November 14th, it departed Shrewsbury, went back to Providence, and arrives there on November 15th. On November 15th, it's sent back out of Providence. November 17th, it's still in transit, and then November 17th, it finally arrives in North Attleboro. So it was mailed out, certified mail, on October 31st, and it didn't arrive in North Attleboro until November 17th.
3 weeks almost, 19 days. Mr. Salvo.
This not only has an impact on everybody that lives in this community, it has an impact on us as a town when we send out certified mail, that people don't get proper notification on time. What he just said right there happened to me in Norton. But it just, for some reason, don't ask me why it happened, for some reason on the top of the envelope, I didn't get it for 4 weeks after it was dated in the beginning of the month, but on top of the envelope, it had each time it went processed at a different date and time on it. So it was 4 times
What's
to go
with the
from
same-
Norton to Norton. Wherever, it went, I couldn't read it because it was so smudged, but it went through the machine 4 times somewhere to get back to here.
So I had someone else today who, you know, the slip you get if you have something certified, so you got to go to the post office and pick it up. Well, this was in Norton. The slip said the Rainham post office. So they went to Rainham, and they said, oh, that's a mistake. That's Norton. They just meant to put, they put the wrong thing. And I had someone else who moved from Norton to the Carolinas, and the mail was supposed to be forwarded. And then they realized they weren't getting a lot of mail, so they were back home for Christmas. They went back to their old house. They had a bag of mail, some of it pharmaceuticals, and then and on the letters was the sticker for the forwarding address. So something's
Something's going on there. I mean,
it's
that's
just
strange.
it's incredible. It really is.
I thought maybe initially, Mr. Salvo, you mentioned maybe it was all these additional deliveries that they're doing possibly for Amazon or whatever, but I mean, that's not the case with these at all.
It's just, how do you send something with the forwarding label on it to the wrong address?
Mr. Chairman, Mike, do you know why Norton ended up losing their carriers here to Taunton?
I don't.
There was, I mean,
Just-
I don't understand that. Everything was not bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
Now, Rainham must be the same way, I would imagine, because they're getting complaints from Rainham. They're probably out of Taunton now, too.
Yeah.
If people want to complain, how do they, I would imagine you'd want them to let you know their stories. I'll tell you mine, I had a certified letter come, went down the next day, and it says not here yet. What do you mean it's not here yet? It hadn't come back to the Norton Post Office. And then the next day I went and finally got it the second day. But I've heard that story quite a few times from different people, that, if you get that postcard in the mail that day, don't bother going to the post office because you're not going to get it. Because somehow it's going to go back to Taunton, and eventually it's going to meander its way back to Norton. And it could be a day or two before that all happens. But if I have a story to tell, who do you want to send it to?
Email it to me, and then
You are?
munits@nortonmaus.com, and then I'll forward it on to Kennedy's office.
That's good.
And just like Bob was saying, if something takes 17 days that's certified, we're required to send out notifications 14 days before
Yeah.
a public hearing. So if someone gets it 17 days and then they call us up and say, when's the well, you missed it, it was 2 days ago.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I know,
What could happen, Mr. Eunice, if that happened to a butter that didn't
We
get
notif-
notified in time?
We just have to show that,
We're relieved of all,
right,
okay.
but that's, again, that's not fair to
right.
the individual that's living here in the town or living
It's not our
anywhere.
fault, so we're relieved, we're not held liable for anything.
No.
Good, good.
And clearly, the post office won't be either, so it is
Right, the post, right.
for,
Yeah.
the people that live in town that might want to know that
Yeah.
information or need to know it.
I mean, I've sent some certified stuff off at work to cancel, for cancellations, and it's taken, I don't know, about 3 weeks, but it's taken at least 2 weeks to get it back. Okay, thank you. Next?
Just on the rail trail, I've heard from Beta Corporation, and they have a baseline plan done, and we're going to have a meeting with District 5, a kickoff meeting with them to show them the baseline plan on the 17th at 2 o'clock at Serped's office in Taunton. So things are moving forward with the bike trail.
Okay, very good. And that would coincide with the 123 project still?
This 123 will be done. Well,
Okay.
their two engineers are coordinating the intersection
okay.
of 123, but 123 will be done before the
Before
before
that, okay, all right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Selectmen's report mail, Mr. Salvo.
I don't have anything, sure.
Ms. Steele?
I just have two things. One, I had mentioned prior to the election day that the high school was doing a fundraiser for the senior on-lake ride party, and it was a raffle. And we held the raffle during the election day and a couple nights after that. But I just want to, first of all, thank all the townspeople, because I can't believe the generosity of the people coming to vote who either gave donations or bought tickets to the raffle. We decided to pull the names during the second high school home basketball game. So we had three winners, the Flaherty family, Tracy Wise, and Chrissy Thompson. Each one, we had 3 baskets. And we made about $2,000, which is a good fundraiser considering it was, one day and a couple nights at the high school. So thank you to all the people in town that helped support that. And again, I can't say it enough. I just hope people understand the value of what this group does to put that all-night party together for the seniors, for them to have that one night of celebration, and for us as a community to know that our youngsters are safe. It's just, I don't know, with all the bad things that have been happening lately with young people dying, I think we really need to appreciate the fact that we do our best to protect our seniors on that special night. So that's that, so thank you. And then the other thing is, I just had a question, Mr. Units, any update on the building inspector's exam?
No, I'll check.
Okay. No, as in, hasn't taken it, or we don't know how?
Either,
I'll
I'll check.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Mr. Kimball?
I have two. I have a letter from the VFW wanting to remind everyone that the VFW Circle of Flags is still selling bricks, again, as effective January 1st, 2017. The cutoff date for the sale is going to be April 22nd. The cost is still the same, $50. So if anyone's interested in, if you haven't had a chance to get out and take a look at this memorial, it's really done well. And there are bricks around the flagpoles that people have donated to. But if you have an opportunity to get down to Summer Street, take a look at it. It is $50 per brick, and they're still trying to raise additional funds for the project. So it's well worth taking the time to do that. And that's the VFW on Summer Street, right off Route 140, heading toward Taunton. We have a letter from Great Brook, Active Adult Living Center here in Norton. Mr. Marshall, Superintendent of Water, regarding the meeting that this board had regarding the sprinkler system program. And they've asked for some additional information that I believe they asked at the meeting, the same questions. But in the end of it, they urged us to have a joint special meeting with the Commission and the Selectmen to be held to solicit further comments from the public at large. A larger venue than the meeting room and the Selectmen's meeting room would be appropriate. And that's from Coleman Foley, who's the treasurer. I believe if people still want to talk about this, I think everyone knows the position of this board. I don't know that we can add, or if we want to add any further conversation to it. But I think it's important to allow other people to have their say and voice their concerns or ask their questions or whatever it might be. So if we could set something up, I think we should have some kind of a joint meeting again, so we can, it could be a meeting of the Water Sewer Commissioners, and we could have just attended. We don't have to be, it doesn't have to be our meeting, it probably should be their meeting.
Right, I
So,
agree.
Mr. Eunice, if you could suggest that to them, and obviously if we want to attend, we can attend the meeting ourselves, so that's all I have.
I mean, even at the same time, we may be able to have some questions answered on the 40B we were just talking about here too at the same time. So if you could just check into that, that would be great. Did you have something to say?
I was just, follow up on that. Did we ever get a clarification from town council whether this was binding Mr. Units to,
I think we did.
it was okay?
Yep.
I do remember that now. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. No worries.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Warrants and minutes. Mr. Salvo.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. At this time, I'd like to approve the bill warrant number 39, dated December 29th. Anybody get a clarification on that date? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I read it now, it's underneath it. Okay, I'd like to approve bill warrant number 39, dated
January
01/03/17.
January 3rd.
Right.
Yep.
January 3rd. For the amount of $740,586.52.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Given none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That is unanimous. Mr. Salvo.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to approve the biweekly payroll for period ending December 31st, 2016. Warrant number 40 dated January 5th, 2017, in the amount of $1,248,624.61.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Given none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to approve bill warrant number 41 dated January 5th, 2017, in the amount of $1,054,349.32.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Given none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye, that is unanimous. In your packet, we had minutes dated November 10th, 2016. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Given that, I would entertain a motion to approve minutes dated November 10th, 2016, as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye, that is unanimous. Next week's agenda, we do have the school committee coming in to discuss, Ms.
Sorry.
Steele?
Sorry for the confusion there. We don't.
No, we do not.
No, but I
Okay.
haven't told you that yet, so I'm telling you now.
Okay,
It was my confusion. There's a joint meeting, school committee and selectmen, at 6 o'clock in this room.
okay.
But it'll be separate from the Board of Selectmen.
From the Board of Selectmen meeting,
And I'll
okay.
have Carol fix that.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that.
No, no worries.
So, what are we doing? We're having a meeting at 6 o'clock and then another one at 7?
Well, 6 o'clock is school committee. It's the ad hoc meeting with the.
Ad hoc?
So,
school
6 o'clock
committee
ad hoc,
And the selectmen
Okay.
Got
only.
it.
And then they'll leave and we'll have our regular meeting.
The two selectmen.
All of us?
All of us.
Oh,
please.
all of
Yeah,
us.
all of us.
Okay.
So,
You want to help us?
yeah. So we'll post our
We're having a
meeting,
lot of problems with dates and times.
so we'll post
Why don't
our
you get
meeting
involved
for
in that?
6 o'clock, and the first item on the agenda will be a
Perfect.
discussion.
That-
We
that's
probably should
perfect.
restrict it to 1 hour, make it like 6 to 7.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can go on to regular business after.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'll have a short agenda. It
And,
shouldn't
uh,
even be till 7. So if we end before
Be
7.
there at 6. Yes.
Sure, I've heard
We
that
could just
before.
end.
You heard
If
that
we ended
Oh,
before
then
7,
we
then we
just keep
can.
going? Our
Right.
meeting just keeps
Okay.
going?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because we'll
perfect.
start our meeting at 6 o'clock, have that as the first
And then when
item.
it's done, it's done. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
And,
Oh, it's all right. I've heard short before, but only taken 7 years to get there.
I was visited today by an employee of the Craft Group who would like to come and talk about seeking the board's support for extension of rail service in Foxborough.
Yes.
And she'll come and explain the route and everything else. It's not going through Norton at all.
No.
Not even going through Mansfield, so I guess it's coming off the Franklin line, so they're looking for support from area towns, whether you want to support it or not, but let me know. I'll email it to you and you can tell
I
me
guess
if you
one
want it
of
on
my
the agenda.
questions with that is that in that letter, Foxborough was thinking of not supporting it at this point in time. So are they looking to have the support of the local, of the
I'll check
neighboring
with- I'll check
communities?
with Foxborough.
To offset Foxborough? I mean, that was, you know.
I'll check with Foxborough and let you know,
Yeah.
beginning of next week, and then tell me if you want it
So
on the
it seemed,
agenda or not.
it just seemed to me that they were looking to get support of everybody else so that they could say, hey, everybody else is supporting it, Foxborough, why aren't you?
Pressure.
Right?
I'll check.
Yeah, please, yeah.
I guess my confusion is, talking about a train that's gonna go through Franklin, Walpole into Foxborough, and not coming anywhere near Mansfield and Norton, and I'm not sure why we're even involved in the
You
conversation.
can tell them that.
So,
But I think we should
Yeah.
hear what they have to say, and, I mean, I know from past practice, when they tried to send a train through town a few years ago, it was many years ago now, about 15 years ago, or more, probably close to 20 years ago. I was very much opposed to that idea then, when it was coming through my own town, and I don't know if I'd be interested in getting involved in a squabble with.
Unless the other towns are in support, wouldn't even think of getting involved.
it's still,
Yeah, I guess we'll hear their
Yeah,
comments
yeah,
and see
so-
what they have to say.
check on that.
I'm fine with reading about it in the Globe.
You don't need,
Sure, I mean, if it's not going to affect, really, it's not going to have any direct positive
No.
impact
None.
on our town, so why?
It's not even
waste
close
our
to us,
time
yeah.
bringing it forward
Yeah.
their time?
I'll tell them that.
yeah, I mean, it's not even coming down any further than Foxborough.
Now, wait a minute.
Snow day tomorrow?
If the bike trail was extended through Mansfield, from Norton into Mansfield into Foxborough, then it might, then you could.
Only if it goes over the train.
Well, I'll wait until I see. I thought it was gonna go from Foxborough to Mansfield and connect to
No,
the
it's going
commuter
the other
rail
way.
line.
No,
people-
no, it's
That's
not.
why the people in Walpole are up in arms. I don't want to go into their town.
Right.
You know, I don't know that I want to get involved in,
Voting for it and they're
Right?
mad at us.
you know what, I mean, it's none of our business. It
It just seems to me that they're trying
really
to
is none of our
Not
business.
if Attleboro voted for something going through our town, that there's
It's
no
not even
effect on
coming-
them, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Keep it simple.
Okay.
Yeah, give it some, there you go. Cut it
Yeah,
all.
like the Attleboro landfill.
Okay, so we have the school committee at 6, and then if you could, just check with our state reps again, maybe in a couple weeks we can have them come in
Is the 12th? I'm trying to remember when double polls was coming up again. I know I scheduled that with them. I'll see. I'll get back to you on that.
So the 12th is
Maybe
next
the
week.
12th.
I think you said the 12th, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that comes before the board? Given that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you. Good night.